So on page 8, the acknowledgement of fiduciary duties and responsibilities. If you're here, if you could sign that or fill it out, it shouldn't be too difficult, and leave with us. Otherwise, you can email it to me or to Barbara. That's something that needs to be done every year because of state law for all members. Madam Commissioner, if you're on as the mayor's representative, you are CEO. May I call the meeting of members to order and begin? Okay, I will start. Okay, so meeting of the members to order. So there are 7 members at this time of the Theater Subdistrict Council. We have either those members here or representatives who have received proxies from those members for 4, so we do have a quorum. Okay, so the meeting of members, the job of the meeting of members is to elect the directors, and every member is a director. So if each member can elect yourself, for this year, a director of the Theater Subdistrict Council by a show of hands. Okay, great. Okay, so all members are now directors for this year. Okay, so now I'd like to end the very short meeting of members and begin the meeting of directors. So I'll bring the meeting of directors to order. Is there a quorum? Yes, because there are 4 directors who just elected themselves. So we do have a quorum. Okay, in your package on page 9 is the 2022 minutes from last year's meeting. I don't know if anybody had a chance to take a look at that, if anyone has any questions or comments about that. If not, I'll put out a motion to adopt the minutes from last year. That'd be okay?
Yeah, seconded.
Okay, good, thank you. So the minutes are adopted. Secondly, on page 18 of the annual report, so the annual report is the stapled portion of the package. On page 18 of that starts the budget materials, and I'd like to turn it over to David Parrish to speak about the proposed budget. Okay, David?
Thanks, Dominic. We're looking for a page that looks like this. It's in the packet you were in. Yes, that's it, right there. Page 15. Okay, thank you. I don't have page numbers. We have some budget cuts at the department. So you have...
page numbers actually cost anything.
It was a bad joke to begin with. You have a three-column slide in front of you. What this shows on the far left column is the budget for adoption for the current fiscal year that started June 1st. Next to that, on the right, you have what we budgeted last year. And on the far right, you have what our actual expenses are. What we've seen over the last couple years is with interest rates going up, we see an increase in our tiny interest income revenue. We've had no contributions. Dominic will touch on pending potential contributions. We have in-kind services provided by City Planning and Cultural Affairs. And our biggest expenses really relate to our auditor and tax provision of services. And so that's something I wanted to highlight for all of you. Last year, because this is our most significant expense, it has gone up. You authorized a contract to seek a new 3-year agreement for an auditor. Last year, it cost us about $9,000. What we are facing, we applied to the New York State Attorney General's office to ask for permission to waive the requirement for a public authority to do an annual audit. The Attorney General's office denied that request. In preparatory meetings, our treasurer, Dan Gorodnick, brought up the suggestion of seeking approval from the board to look for the potential for a pro bono auditor for those years where we have no significant financial involvement. We would appreciate the board's help in any connections in that matter, but that's our first item to discuss on the budget. Any comments or a motion to explore a pro bono
Do we need an official motion to explore pro bono?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm certainly happy to make the motion to explore pro bono representation for accounting and audit.
Second?
Second?
I vote aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Great.
And in the interim, David, so we are budgeting the difference that we would expect to have to pay if we are not so successful in finding someone, and that's a couple $1,000s, correct?
Yes, exactly. So that, yes, go ahead.
So the question is, do you want help trying to procure someone, and that is something that you're authorizing us to try to do?
Absolutely. So I would value anyone's participation or help or direction or any leads that we could reach out to. So we would sincerely appreciate that.
Are there any parameters that we need to know about as we seek? Okay.
No, this really is a very straightforward audit. There are two bank accounts, generally a money market account and a checking account. Our transactions are minimal until we get into grant rounds. And so it's really straightforward. It's a shame to budget $11,000 to do such an audit.
Great.
We are budgeting an amount of money, $5,000, for a consultant. That is, we've had discussions with Barbara, who is invaluable to the TSC, and we appreciate her significantly. There's, occasionally we hear from a pending applicant that an application may come in. There's some work that could be done in advance of that, or there's the potential that we may need to seek a new consultant in the future. And so to be conservative, we put some money here. The board authorizes consultants at an hourly rate, so it would only be the work undertaken. I personally do not expect significant work this fiscal year at all, but we wanted to put something there just in case there was a need for a transition or this applicant came in sooner than expected. Yes?
Sorry, I'm full of questions today. Do we have a job description for what Barbara does?
Somewhere.
Yes, we do. We can share that. We were looking at revising that with cultural affairs. We could certainly share that.
Great.
So we do need a motion to approve the budget for the year. So if there are any members.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
A second.
Thank you. And a vote to approve the budget?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you all. Turn my microphone. On the next page, just so you're aware, you can see the 3-year projection summarized in line by line, and you can see how much the annual audit costs eat into the very small amount of funding that we have available right now. And then the page beyond that is just a different format of that 3-year projection. So with that, we'll in that section. Dominic?
So I'd like to continue with the meeting of directors to talk about the annual report. The Public Authorities Accountability Act requires the annual report. Looks like this. It says on cover, annual report, fiscal year June 1st, 2022, May 31st, 2023. In the annual report, just real quick, it has the budget tables that David just went over. It has a summary of what the council has done through the years in terms of contributions, donations. It also, on the first page, and I guess I could talk about this now, a summary of a very quick summary of last year's meeting, and also the potential application is an actual application that was brought by the Schubert Group for the Ambassador Theater. And this was approved last fall. And it was an application to transfer about 81,000 square feet from the Ambassador Theater to a site at 740 8th Avenue. So the application was approved by the City Planning Commission, and when the transfer of those development rights are done, then by operation of the zoning, a contribution would have to be made by the Schubert Group to the Theater Subdistrict Fund in the amount of about $2 million. That hasn't happened. My communication with the attorney for the Schubert Group, they believe that the closing for those development rights will happen in June of next year. So the Theater Subdistrict Fund would not receive that money until at the earliest June of next year. And this is in the annual report. And then just to note also in the annual report that we've had communications with the Schubert Group that they want to slightly revise the amount of floor area that's being transferred from about 81,000 to about 78,000. What that would mean is that the contribution would then be reduced to about 1.919 million. So reduced slightly, but we're still looking at close to about $2 million. But I think the important thing is that the time frame now is shifted to June of 2024 for the fund to ever see any of that contribution. So that's a quick update of the summary of the annual report. And is there a motion to adopt the annual report as per state law, which this body has to do?
So moved.
Okay, can we have a vote on that?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next would be officer elections. So historically, and as we did last year as well, the offices went that the director of the Department of City Planning would be the treasurer, the commissioner of Department of Cultural Affairs is CEO, Manhattan Borough President is secretary, and the speaker is vice chair. If anyone has an objection, we could have the offices go the same way this year, and if that'd be okay, then what I'd like to propose is a motion. Do you respectively, and also myself and David, are also officers, we'll talk about that. Do you respectively re-elect Dominic Answini as Chief Contracting Officer and David Parrish as Chief Financial Officer, and elect Commissioner Laurie Cumbo, CEO, Dan Garodnick as Treasurer, Mark Levine as Secretary, and Adrian Adams as Vice Chair? That's for a vote, if everyone's okay with those offices.
Yes.
I hope that I hope that in that selection that Dan Garodnick is fine with me being the CEO here.
Yeah, Commissioner, I appreciate your raising that important issue, and I reflected on this very carefully, as you might imagine, and I am prepared. You have my full endorsement and confidence in this role.
I feel so much more confident now taking on this role, knowing that you vocalized that you are confident and comfortable with me serving as the CEO.
I will also note that as the treasurer, I will keep a very careful handle on all funds, and we'll make sure that we are in good shape.
So
Okay,
received.
thank you.
Duly noted.
Okay, Madam Chair, may we briefly adjourn the meeting of the meeting of directors to have the meeting of the audit committee?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to turn it back over to David Parrish to talk about the audited financial statements.
And if anyone would like my job, you can just let me know. So we have the annual audit. It looks like this from Wayway Incorporated, dated May 31st, 2023, the end of our fiscal year. It is, yeah, Dan's got it there. 19, page 19. This year's annual audit, we had 4 transactions. The auditor found no issues. This is what you would regard as a clean audit. It was silly to pay this much money for it. Their number one finding was that we are running our balance down quite low, which they were not so helpful in doing. Yeah, so I'm glad we're giving all our money away, but we're, potentially not giving it to our grantees. So that's where we stand with the audit. We do need a motion to approve the audit and a vote to approve the audit.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Continuing with the audit committee, assessment of internal controls. This is, again, I'm sorry about the page number issue, but if it's in the document meetings of members and directors, and it is about 3/4 of the way through this. At the top of the page, right after the audited financials, it says assessment of internal controls.
35.
Okay, thank you. Page 35. The Public Authorities Law requires that the Theater Subdistrict Council conduct an annual assessment of its internal control structures and procedures. This assessment has been prepared in coordination with the Chief Financial Officer. The auditor's statement, which is a page earlier than where you would find the assessment of internal controls, at the top of the page, the last page of their audit says, our consideration of the internal control is for a limited purpose described in the first paragraph. Given these limitations, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weakness. So, is there a motion to adopt the assessment of internal controls for this fiscal year?
So moved.
Okay, and a vote to approve the assessment of internal controls.
Aye.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll need a motion to adjourn the meeting of the audit committee because the audit committee is done.
I move to adjourn the audit committee.
Okay. Now, Madam Chair, may we bring to order the meeting of the governance committee?
After careful consideration, I approve moving forward.
Okay, there's only one item regarding this, and that is the board member evaluations. Now, the larger package, this is the last page in the larger package, and the back of it says confidential evaluation of board performance. And the Public Authorities Accountability Act requires that board members conduct an annual evaluation of the organization. So those present, if you have the time today, if you can just fill out this one-page survey. If you aren't present, if you could take that survey, fill it out as you see fit, and get it back to me, that would be appreciated. Again, that is the board member evaluations on the last page of the package. Any questions about that?
No.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Then there's no further business of the governance committee, and if there's a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn the governance committee.
And second, okay, and vote in favor? Thank you. Okay,
I
great.
vote aye.
So we're going to go back now to now we're done with the committees, now we're back to the meeting of directors. And I think this is the last thing we need to do from a corporate housekeeping standpoint. Public authority laws requires that the Theater Subdistrict Council annually review and readopt its procurement policy and investment guidelines. And these are in the back of the larger package, a few pages from the back. One document is the Theater Subdistrict Council Local Development Corporation procurement policy, and a few pages after that is the investment guidelines. If there are any questions about these two documents, but otherwise, could there be a motion to adopt the policy and the guidelines?
I move to adopt them both.
Okay, and a vote to adopt them?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that brings to an end the corporate housekeeping that has to be done here. Now's the time where we can devote it to general discussion among the members. I was at this point going to just talk about the Ambassador Theater application, but it's already been spoken about when I talked about the annual report, so I don't think I have anything else to add here, but Director Grodnick?
Thank you. I just wanted to do a recap for my understanding and perhaps everybody's. So the previously approved transfer by the City Planning Commission on the Ambassador Theater, we expect to come in at around $1.9 million in June of next year. And we looked at the total potential, I see this in our minutes from our last conversation, total potential contribution amount across all sites as $34.9 million. That will be the end of the line for this program. So I just will flag for this group that I think it's worth, and we don't need to do it here today, thinking about the strategic approach of this fund going into the future, whether we want to continue bringing it in, spending it down immediately, or whether we want to amass a certain batch of principal here and use it as an ongoing corpus for generating income that we can use to spend forever. I don't have a particular agenda on that point, but I don't love spending down to zero. I like something like this to have a way to stay alive. So it's just something I wanted to flag again as just a point that I think we should think about. And again, we have basically $0 at this moment in time, so it's not mission critical for us to debate now. But when $1.9 million comes in, there will be at least a question as to whether we should just disperse or whether we should hold with a strategy. So I just will say that out loud.
It's Paige. I have a question about, and I cannot believe I've really never asked this before, are there any redundancies in the granting values that we have and in any other city programs? So what I'm getting at is there any sort of alignment we can have with other gifting or granting, or the combination, can we fold in two mechanisms, or are we better as a standalone? Because obviously we have a mission that we have to hew to. But so just if there's strength in being combining with another program.
I think that's also a good thought and something we could talk to the Department of Cultural Affairs about and think about whether there is some alignment. I think that's a good question.
Wasn't one of our projects with the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment at some point as well? Didn't we do something with them?
We did one thing with them quite a few rounds ago. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. One more question. Approximately how much did we give out in each round? Is it more or less than 1.9?
I think our largest round was $2 million or $2.5 million. The others were I used to have this with me. The others were $1 million, between $1 and $1.5. I think the largest round was about $2 million.
Yeah, we have it right here. There were two rounds, one at 2.2 and one at 2.1. Most were in the $1 million range, or just over.
But it's been a total of 9 over the years, and no round was it less than $1 million.
I didn't need a motion to adjourn.
I guess so. Any other questions? Otherwise, I guess we'll need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
And a vote to adjourn, yes?
Seems like the motion carries.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thanks all. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam CEO.
Thank you, my treasurer. I'm actually outside. I'm going to come in for a hug. To say hello.